Hey there, welcome to the Community ROI podcast. Here, senior community experts, founders, and C-level managers tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how community impacts business growth. By listening to these conversations, you'll get actionable steps on how to connect community goals with business goals to skyrocket business growth while still bringing extreme value to community members. My name is Yurii. I help people and brands shine through communities and personal connections. And my guest is Avital Knoller, a community and collaboration specialist passionate about empowering organizations to build strong, collaborative communities that definitely drive positive change in the world. So, welcome, Avital.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Super happy to finally talk to you. As I've told you before, it feels like we've known each other for years, even though we met for the first time today. So
Yeah.
let's jump more into your professional part. So,
Mhm.
what's your definition of a community for business?
So, I see community as the connective tissue across the business. It's an ecosystem. So a business community, or I like to call it a product community. This is where your users don't just consume, they also contribute. And that contribution accelerates everything else within the organization. And we can talk about it a little bit more as we go
Yeah,
on.
it's interesting how you phrase it, that they are not just consume but contribute. And I feel like that's exactly some missing point that many people think that they are building communities to serve people. And it's kind of right. You serve your clients and people around the brand, but they also serve you. So it's kind of like two-way street. And
Yeah.
like, okay, let's continue. So what's your definition of a community goal?
So it kind of goes to what you've just said. In my opinion, a community goal is a shared outcome that supports both your members and your business, right? It's a two-way street. It's a way to bridge the needs. Um, so, it's always about value creation, right? So how am I benefiting and how are they benefiting from it? And that's kind of a community goal.
What is one goal of the community you are working with at the moment or worked before that inspires you the most?
Okay, so one of my favorite goals is making our community the engine behind our product previews. So we have this program where we select customers to test features early on, and then they give feedback, they shape the roadmap, and it aligns directly with our business goals, right? We want to have faster innovation, stronger customer retention, and just better market fit overall. And so that's my favorite thing. You really see how the community is super passionate about testing our new features because these are things they've asked for, and how they really help shape things. And a lot of times when the feature or the product is released, the community members themselves will promote it within the community, right? So then we get also kind of like little marketers or little sellers within the community for a new product and an upsell. So that's my favorite goal.
I remember we had a conversation with Tim McDonald, and he told from his experience that just reaching out to community and sharing some features they wanted to build helps them to understand that it's not what they wanted and saved a ton of
Exactly.
money and time
Exactly.
instead of building this feature just to like pivot and like build what people really need. So I totally.
Listen.
Yeah, so it's clear connection of this community goal with business goal. And I'm still curious, what specific actions do you take to reach this goal?
So we have a really big program, right? So it starts with coordinating with the PM and prepping the materials and creating feedback forms. And we have different groups within the community for different elements in the product. And we work very closely with our sales teams and our customer success team to identify the right customers because we want to set this up for success, right? And the customer has to have time to actually dig deep and give us the feedback we need. So it's like a really large operation from really like sitting with the PMs early on, understanding the feature and their prerequisites to bringing it in front of the customers and then sitting with them and doing onboarding calls and listening to them and bringing the right people to the room so they would feel seen. and then taking the feedback we get and creating actionable steps out of it, right? So to fix what we need or change what we have to, and then eventually, obviously, we move it on to public and we see more and more people in it.
How do you motivate both sides, customers and PMs, to work with you?
So I think from the customer side, it's easier in a way because they want to be part of this, right? Like they want the product to be better for them. Um, this is a tool they use every day normally. And so it's easier to kind of get them into the room. A lot of times these are these are features they ask for, right? Like they have requests for them open. And then I just come and tell them not only that I'm going to give you what you wanted, I'm also bringing you in the room to make it exactly like you wanted it. Then on the product side, it's about showing them that yes, this might be a little bit more work because now we need to kind of talk with a lot of people, but eventually what you're going to create is going to be exactly what they need and it will elevate your place in the organization. So it's about selling the narrative in the right way to the right people, like speaking their language, basically.
Yeah, coming back to languages.
Love language.
So I feel like it's always about you have to go a little like extra mile, but in the end, like save this time and money and hours and nerves. And I feel
Yeah,
like it's something that people are missing. They think that they will spend a lot of time right now, but that's exactly how it works. You spend a little more time now so that you don't spend more time in the future.
exactly, exactly.
Something people are really, really forgetting about. So you told about the product team, and I'm curious, what other teams do you usually work with when you build a community?
So the easy answer is everyone. But the bigger answer is product marketing, success, support, customer success, solution engineers, sales, even security teams. Literally every organization within legal, finance. I work with all of them. I'll do a little caveat and I'll say that I really think that the best community builders are, I call them Renaissance minds. So it's people that, in a sense, are curious and adaptable and fluent in many languages. You know, they can speak the product language, they can speak the marketing language. They know how to do that. So it's not just about being an extrovert or a great content creator. We need to be strategic thinkers that really understand different ecosystems and know how to influence them across the organization and then connect the dots.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're in a sense translators. We help the organization build different relationship within it and create different ecosystem in it. And so it's kind of like our superpower, right? Especially in our organizations where we're still misunderstood. And that's why taking the extra mile, like you said before, and talking with different people it's fun for us. It doesn't feel like work. Like for me to
Yeah.
explain the product, why they need the community is great. Like it's not, I don't feel like it's a task. It's like, yes, that's what I do. I know that I need to translate community to product. So that's kind of the way I think about it. And so yes, I work with everyone and you really see how it affects, right? Community is like a ripple. It's very subtle, but it
Mm.
changes everything you touch in the organization.
Yeah, when you were talking about working with the teams, I just literally had this in my mind, like connecting the dots, like talking to different people, and like making these connections happen. And I have this joke that I'm kind of like vice CEO because I always know like what how going on in other teams, sometimes
Yeah.
even better than CEO. Okay, I'm just joking, but still kind of like this community builders are those people who are like everywhere all at once, and
Yes.
it's like how do they do it? Like, do they have time to work? And people like don't really realize that it is work. It is work. That's what makes it happen. So
That's
you mentioned
you.
you mentioned all these teams. Like, how specifically community impacts to each of them? Like, how does it benefit those
Yeah.
teams?
So we spoke about product before and how we do our preview program, but also even if they're just looking at the threads, right? They might find a pain for product and then they can either reprioritize their roadmap or get a new idea or for CSM, they can spot a churn risk. a seller can maybe find the champion. We can reduce support tickets by just having people answer questions in the community. We can create brand advocates by just really listening to our customers and wanting them to be, when they feel like they're part of what we're doing, they want to be part of it in many ways. So it really affects it in many different levels. And, it's just really cool to see when you actually manage to create a program and see how it affects everyone in it.
I feel like the very important thing is really know what to measure and how to measure it, because we can talk about that community like makes everything better, and then like someone asking like what exactly, and like I don't know. So I'm curious, like what are some of the metrics you are dealing with?
Yeah, so it's a good question because it's very hard to measure community success. So I do kind of like a combination of things. Like I obviously have the normal KPIs, everything I can measure, like retention or these kind of things. I put it in there. But the second thing that I do is always OKRs and shots, right? Like if a customer is going to send me, oh my God, this preview really helped me to understand something. Or if a PM texts me and says, thank you so much. Now I know how to do these things. So it's kind of like an in between of normal KPIs that you see and visuals, as many visuals you can give, pictures, statements, people saying what they're feeling, these kind of things. And it's a balance. And you have to learn how to advocate for yourself because no one really understands community in your organization, even if they think they do. And no one actually wakes up thinking about community. You're the only one that is doing that. So you always have to learn how to advocate for yourself, even if it's not measurable by numbers.
It sounds like connecting data with storytelling. And the funniest thing is that when you are sharing the shots, I feel like it also helps other teams to kind of like motivate them, because when they see customers happy, like, oh yeah, customer happy, like that's like we are doing what we're doing. And I feel like I read it in the book like Give and Take, or there were experiments where people were helping other people without any feedback, and like they didn't know like what do they do, and then other people were also helping other people but with feedback, and when they saw feedback of real humans that kind of
Yeah,
like how it works, they were much more motivated and much more interested in what they are doing, and they were much more effective at the end of the day. So I feel like that's
exactly.
that's also like the part that people are usually missing, because even when customer is saying that you are happy, that's your connection with the real world. Because even for a developer, if they're working, like they're writing the code, how do they know if it affects anyone? And then here you are bringing them this information.
Exactly. And you need to learn how to tie it together, right? Like, oh, this thing changed in the product thanks to this feedback. So you always have to be kind of everywhere at the same time.
Yeah. I feel like we are like our community builders are just waiting for AI agents, for AI twins. At some moment, it will be like each AI
Yeah,
twin
we need
for
to
every
partner with
team.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we are talking a little bit of how to encourage PMs and customers talk to you, but how do you do this with other teams? I mean, like in a way that you are not just helping them to get
Yeah.
what they want, what they need, but also without kind of like adding more and more and more work to their plates.
So, and a lot of times you will add work to their plate, but it's fine if you know how to tell it to them and how to explain it to them. So what I try to do is I'm trying to be an amplifier and not a demander,
Hmm.
which means that I look for ways to make their work easier. I might add more work, but I'm showing them how it will be easier. Like if I see that there's a lot of questions that are repeating in the community and in our support tickets, I'll help our writing team create docs for it. Or if I want the PMs to change something, then I will give them curated feedback and not the raw thread. Or it's about how you will ask the question, right? Instead of saying, do this, I'll ask, what's already on your plate and how can the community help you move it forward? So I'm kind of like ingesting the community in their mind Um, and I help them understand that we are allies. We're not a burden. We're here to help you. And maybe you might need to do three more extra steps right now, but in the future, it will help you. If you now build this relationship with the community, you'll get a champion. You'll get less support tickets, right? And it was a difficult thing for us, for example, with support. I had to convince them that it makes sense to divide their time between actual support cases that we're getting in our support and sitting in the community and monitoring that we're not getting support questions there and that questions are being handled in the right way. And at first they were very, against it. They were like, oh, but we don't have enough manpower. And eventually I created this program called Community Service. And what I asked them to do is when we finish onboarding, you don't want before you send your support engineer or your CSM or your solution engineer to the field to talk with customers, bring them to community. They'll learn a little bit, they'll see, and it will make them better at their job. So you kind of find ways within the organization to both get what you need, but also not take the time from like the people who, I don't know, are the experts or take their time in a smart way. So it's just, listening a lot.
It also sounds to me like you are approaching them with like, help me help you.
Exactly. And this is what we do. We do that. It's always about a win-win, right? Like that's community, essentially. It's how we're helping each other.
Yeah, I feel like it's always when you are a community manager, community builder, you're coming to a new company or wherever you're starting a community. The first question is like, go to other teams, like, how can I help you? And not asking them like how community can help you, but like, what are you dealing with? Like, what are your challenges? And then, as you've said, coming back to language and translation, it's your job, it's community builder's job to kind of like make it happen, to translate how
Yeah.
to help their challenges to deal with the help of community.
So,
Oh my
I
God.
did when I start a new job, I always go to different departments and I ask two questions. My first question is, what is community for you? Because I always want to understand how they view community first. And then my second question is, how can community help you? Always. And that's how I start working on my strategy, right? Like I never start with like, this is what I think we need to do in this organization, because every organization is different. And I
Yeah.
need allies. I know that I need allies. So I go to all the departments where I think I need the allies at, and I ask these two questions. And it's always worked.
You told a little about sharing those feedback from customers and PMs in the chat, but I'm still curious, how do you, like, what are some other ways that you are bringing visibility to the community impact on business internally?
So we have a lot of different programs, right? So each program that we have, like we have an ambassador program, and we have different kinds of ambassadors. We have leaders, we have MVPs, or we have I don't know, our event program, etc. So it's very easy to measure the success of these programs, like an event program. If I now have 300 people at an event, I know it's a success, right? Like it's a Tuesday, it's 12 p.m., and 300 people showed up. Great. And I always kind of show them how many people showed up compared to how many people registered. So there's always the measurable impact there. And I always kind of show that the idea of the event also came from the community. It's not I woke up in the morning and said, oh, we need this. I go, hey, I asked the community what they want to see. Boom. Or I've seen this repetitive question going again and again. Maybe we need to create an event here. So it's always kind of like really learning and leaning in. And I will go back a little bit to our friend AI that you just talked about before. It does help me to measure repetitive questions that we see. I don't use AI to necessarily respond because I want real human interaction, but I use it to measure things that we see again and again and again. And that has been one of the things that really helped me to show the success of the community, because then I have like an actual proof. This is something people are asking for. This is how I'm resolving it for you guys.
Yeah, it's so much easier when you are summarizing these things. Yeah, definitely. You are the
Exactly.
final person who makes a decision and you are using your brain power for that. but like, why not to use some assistance in like dealing with some routine work? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Still, community is not always a bright side. There is a dark side. And I'm curious, how do you talk about the challenges that you face?
So I really try to be as honest and vulnerable that I can be, but also solution focused, right? If you just come and say, oh, this is really hard, that would not help you. But if I come and say, this is hard, this is something I think I can do to fix it, that really helps a lot. We really need to understand that community is still really misunderstood in many organizations. So we need to name the ambiguity. Like, here's what we're still defining. This is what we're still trying to define success over, or here's a gap in resourcing. But always bring up a proposal or an experiment to move forward. So you have to kind of frame it as part of we build, measure, learn. It's kind of like a loop, and that will help you kind of with your make your challenges a bit easier and also really have the spotlight on you. And another thing that I always try to tell myself is embrace your multipotentiality. Like we talked about before, we are the people who see cross functionally. And again, so you come and whoever you're talking to about your challenges, talk in their language,
Yeah.
explain it in the narrative, they will understand it. Um, and they will often want to help you because
Yeah.
you're in the same organization, you're working for the same goals.
Community people are companies linguists. So basically, they speak
Exactly.
business, they speak sales, they speak
Exactly.
marketing, speak products, speak customer success. Oh, by the way, I feel like I don't know why there are no such things on LinkedIn. Like when you choose languages, why there is no sales language or marketing language?
I
You
agree.
have to speak them, you know?
I agree. I agree.
So, you know, I have so many questions still, and I really wish to have the sky is the limit, but time is the limit. So, the final question: what is one thing to do right away for someone who is struggling with identifying their community ROI?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think start by identifying who your community is already helping, right? And how. So look for the signals. Is it reducing support loads? Is it speeding up product feedback, driving expansion? So you start with that. Then you tell that story with one screenshot or a metric, right? Like we talked about before. So it doesn't have to be a perfect dashboard, it has to prove value. So you need to kind of start building a compelling thread. It's a long-term investment, right? So you start with that. You start with understanding who is paying your bills. If now I'm in marketing, my first thing is to think about how am I showing marketing that what I am doing is helpful for them? They're my first client, not the customers, the marketing team. Then
Yeah.
start kind of going to other teams. So you always start with the team you're in, you match your goals and your KPIs to theirs, and then you expand. And you really, like I said, have to understand it's a long-term investment. It compounds over time. When you align with the right kind of area, you'll get what you want. You'll get your product growth, you'll get your customer loyalty, you'll get your feedback loops. It really becomes indispensable. So it's not just kind of like a vanity metric or a brand moment, right? It's about strategy. So you need to think, this company thinks that I belong to this function. How do I show them that I ace that and do way more?
No, you reminded me of this approach that Rosie Sherry told. Like we have this MVP thing in product, like minimum viable product, and there is this MVC, like minimum viable community. You don't
Yeah.
have to build like the huge plan right away. Like start small, and exactly to your point, start like who are your community already serving,
Yeah.
like who are already benefiting out of it, and
Exactly.
then just grow it. Grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
last but not least, name two people I should reach out to talk about community ROI.
So my two people. So first of all, Zach Haftoff, he's the CEO of Tighten It. It's a web community platform that is built for Slack. Very cool. And he is very, very sharp on community measurement frameworks and all the business alignments. The other person, and I think you know her, is Ruti Berber. She's my ride or die in community. She's just really a brilliant person. She understands community from so many different levels. But one thing that I really, really appreciate about her is that she brings a really grounded and empathetic approach and how to drive business value with community. She's really great.
Totally, totally amazing humans. Definitely agree with you. And what is the best way to connect with you?
On LinkedIn, of course, my favorite platform.
That's how it works. Okay, Avital, thank you so much for this conversation. I really love to hear your insights, and I love your linguistic approach
Thank
into
you.
like connecting different teams and like being this translator of like business language to community language and vice versa, and also speaking sales, marketing, product, and all of these languages. And there is no wonder that you are a linguist. So
Yeah.
and yeah, I just love learning from you, and super happy that we finally kind of like met kind of in real life, even though it's a podcast conversation. Who cares? At least we had a great conversation. And thank you so
Yeah.
much
And
for that.
eventually we will meet in life
We'll
soon.
do. Definitely. We must do it. We must do it.
Yeah.
And for now, see you in the community world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about how the community can help you reach and overcome your business goals faster, let's connect on LinkedIn and talk about it. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.